Hello, everyone. It's Gordon Causey coming to you live and unscripted once again. Greetings to friend and foe, to adversary and ally. How's that for an opening tagline? Anyway, today it's now Monday, 11:15 a.m., Monday the 26th of August. And you may be seeing me do some videos at times. I normally don't do them. Normally my videos start at 10:30, 11 o'clock, even midnight or later. But I'm off for the next 9-10 days. So I'm going to have some time during the day. And when I get hit with news, helps me work through things to share it and to formulate my thoughts, my views, my opinions. And I came across something this morning, which was somewhat startling. I have to give a shout out in a way, someone I've never met. There's a YouTube channel I follow called Coffee with Jesus. I've linked it down below. It's a ministerial YouTube channel. The gentleman, I believe he's a pastor. He's an older American, probably in and around my own age. And he has his Coffee with Jesus and does Bible studies and all kinds of things. I don't watch him all the time, but because I subscribe to the channel, his channel, I'll see the content from time to time. And today this morning I saw one talking about lockdowns being instituted in parts of Massachusetts over something called Eastern equine encephalitis, EEE. And I had to look up encephalitis. I'd heard of encephalitis before, and the only thing I could think of was that it had something to do with the swelling of the brain, but I wasn't 100% sure. All my medical accreditation, all my medical degrees come from Facebook, as I've said many times on this channel, so I had to look into it. Before I get going on everything with my channel, of course, you are welcome to, what do they say, smash the like button and to hit subscribe. I'm on the march to 1,000 subscribers, for which my channel has no production value. If I do it during the day, I do it from this little spare junk room that we have in the house, because normally I do it from my dining room, which face west, and the exposure from the sun coming through the back sliding glass window, it doesn't work. I'm just it's overexposed or whatever. So when I do a video during the day, I move myself into this little spare junk room with an old surplus army cot, Canadian flag on top, American flag underneath. So what's happening in the world, thanks to Vincent Rhodes, I've linked his video down below, talking about this EEE, Eastern equine, and instituting something about a curfew or a voluntary lockdown, if you will. So let's see, it's not sharing just yet. Here we go. So here's one article. I think this one is the Daily Hive or something like that. We'll see what it is. This is New Now, U.S. News. Let's make sure it's sharing. Yeah, it is sharing. News Nation. And this is all over. You can search it out. There are tons of articles on it, and you can find videos on it. And it's being reported on nightly news, seems to be local newscasts. I don't think it's hit the national news yet. So let's see. Massachusetts town set voluntary curfew amid EEE case, singular 1. An elderly man was confirmed to have Eastern equine encephalitis. EEE is a potentially fatal mosquito-borne disease. The towns have a voluntary curfew at 6 p.m. And the article goes on to say, a voluntary evening lockdown has been enacted in 4 Massachusetts towns amid a potentially fatal mosquito-borne illness. The towns of Webster, Oxford, Sutton, and Douglas made the decision following the confirmation of the first human case of EEE in Worcester County since 2020. Massachusetts health officials say said 12 cases of EEE in 2019 resulted in 6 deaths and 1 death from 5 cases the following year. I have some questions about this reporting, which I'll say it now. So it says 12 cases of EEE. Is that confirmed cases, or is that laboratory confirmed cases? How many cases were there in the state of Massachusetts in 2019? Were there only 12 cases in the entire state, or were there only 12 identified cases? And how is a case identified? Is it done through serology testing, blood testing, PCR testing? How do they determine a person has it? And when we get into what encephalitis is and how it presents and the symptoms, I ask, is it possible for a person to contract encephalitis and not be aware that they have it and thus not get tested and potentially not be counted as a case? I don't know what the population of the state of Massachusetts is. I assume it's a reasonably large state. I'm going to Google things right now as we're talking. What's the population of the state of Massachusetts? Videos, live and unscripted. I don't script these out, so it's unvarnished. I often refer to this as my miserable little YouTube channel because there are no production values. It's a one-man show entirely. MASS. I don't know how to spell Massachusetts. Population. 7 million people. As of 2022, they say 6.982, at least according to Google. So we have a state of 7 million people. And we have 12 cases in all of 2019 and 1 case the following year. I'm operating under the assumption that these are confirmed cases, and I wonder, and I'll openly question, is it possible to contract encephalitis in whatever form, EEE or another form, and not be diagnosed? Then the article goes on to say, Oxford Board of Health voted in favor of the recommendation that residents should stay inside from 6 p.m. local time until September 30th. The guidance came into effect immediately earlier this week. Once October begins, the advised curfew starts an hour earlier at 5 p.m. Dusk, obviously, as we move forward into the fall, dusk starts earlier and earlier. While the lockdown is not mandatory, CBS News reports that school districts will comply with the measures, meaning that sports practices will be halted or moved inside during the curfew. Bodies wishing to continue with outdoor activities are required to file paperwork acknowledging the risks. Lovely. And another thing, fear. Panic porn comes immediately to mind. And I'll share another article on it. And of course, you hear my dog in the background. I didn't invite her in at the start of this video. Normally she is. I have a Candy the Wonder Pup on the Border Collie. See if this is sharing. Rare but deadly mosquito virus has Massachusetts town under curfew. This is the Telegraph, which is a UK publication. And it says a Massachusetts town has introduced a partial nighttime curfew after the confirmed a human case of a rare and deadly disease spread by mosquitoes. Public parks in Plymouth, about 40 miles southeast of Boston, will be closed to visitors between dusk and dawn every day amid concerns over an outbreak of eastern equine encephalitis, EEE, a disease with no known cure and fatality rate of about 33%. Approximately 30% of people with EEE die, and many survivors have ongoing neurological problems, according to the U.S. Center for Disease Control and Prevention, everyone's favorite CDC. Health officials in 4 other towns, Douglas, Oxford, Sutton, and Webster, have urged locals to finish their outdoor activities by 6 p.m. before mosquitoes are at their most active, until the end of next month, and then by 5 p.m. until the first frost arrives. They also urged people across the state to use mosquito repellent when going outdoors and drain any standing water around their homes. Massachusetts health officials last week announced that an Oxford man in his 80s had become the first person to be infected with the virus in the States since 2020. So 4 years without any cases, and now for the first time since 2020, 1 case, and it's leading to this reaction. Voluntary curfew, but shutting down of facilities, schools complying and not having any evening outdoor activities. The man, who has not been named, is courageously battling the virus in hospital. Jennifer Callaghan, a local official from Oxford, wrote in a memo. She said his family want people to be aware of this. Having trouble with comprehension on a Monday morning. She said his family want people to be aware. This is an incredibly serious disease with terrible physical and emotional consequences, regardless if the person manages to live. Boom, 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 boom. Terrifying news from Massachusetts. Let's have this article. So, not getting any reaction right now. I hardly have anyone watching, people popping in and out. But I'd be interested to know your reaction to this news. It strikes me that there's constantly something on the horizon. And does it stay out on the horizon, or does it start to get closer and closer? Do things get bigger? We have flirt and various iterations of COVID that are still percolating in the news. They're reporting on COVID. Their bird flu is leading to the culling of millions of chickens all over the United States and probably Canada as well. Then I'm missing one. There's another disease that's not springing immediately. Monkeypox. How could I forget monkeypox? So we had those 3, COVID, bird flu, monkeypox, all kind of percolating in the background. And now we have this EEE, this Eastern equine encephalitis. And you might be wondering, what is encephalitis? As I said, when I first read the news, I said, doesn't that have something to do with the swelling of the brain or something? But I don't know much about it because, again, all my medical degrees come from Facebook. So I went to the Mayo Clinic. I did a search, and I'm just sharing the page from encephalitis. I had heard the term before, and this has been in the news before, but at a very low level, and it's still right at a low level. I don't want to be alarmist in any sense. I find the reaction somewhat alarming. I find the reaction of these 4 towns in Massachusetts to be alarming, shutting down school activities in the evening hours and closing parks and recreational outdoor facilities. I know that YouTube does not allow me to think critically about any public health pronouncements. Whatever public health officials say is encephalitis is. This is to the Mayo Clinic. Encephalitis is inflammation of the brain. It can be caused by viral or bacterial infections or by immune cells mistakenly attacking the brain. So it sounds like an autoimmune disease. Interesting. Viruses that can lead to encephalitis can be spread by insects such as mosquitoes and ticks. When inflammation is caused by an infection in the brain, it's known as infectious encephalitis. And when it's caused by the immune system attacking the brain, it's known as autoimmune encephalitis. Sometimes there is no known. Encephalitis can sometimes lead to death. Getting diagnosed and treated right away is important because it's to predict how encephalitis may affect each person. Here are the symptoms. It may cause different symptoms, including confusion, personality changes, seizures, or trouble with movement. Obviously, if it's a brain, if there's swelling of the brain, that could manifest, I imagine, in any number of ways. Encephalitis also may cause changes in sight or hearing. Most people with infectious encephalitis have flu-like symptoms. Wonderful. So many of these diseases, and COVID presents flu-like symptoms. Flu obviously presents flu-like symptoms. I think monkeypox, before it breaks out into sores, can present flu-like symptoms, and bird flu probably too. Don't quote me on that though. Anyway, most people with infectious encephalitis have flu-like symptoms such as headache, fever, aches in muscle or joints, fatigue, or weakness. Typically, these are followed by more serious symptoms over a period of hours to days, such as stiff neck, confusion, agitation, or hallucinations, seizures, loss of feeling or being able to move certain areas of the face or body, irregular movements, muscle weakness, trouble with speech or hearing, loss of consciousness, including coma. Sharing there. All of these are both the news articles that I shared. Both the news articles I shared are linked down below, and the Mayo Clinic's description of this, just encephalitis, not Eastern equine encephalitis, just in the broader encephalitis. Sandy Sanderson is here and says, hey back. Good to see you, Sandy. Glad to have someone chiming in, because and again, I got this news from, and I shared the link down below as well, to Vincent Rhodes's Coffee with Jesus YouTube channel. So give him some love if you like. Give him a view. Give him a like if you want to. If you like his content, subscribe to it. Likewise with my own. But what occurred to me is that, it's this whole idea of fear, programmed fear. There's always something on the horizon that we're told to be afraid of. And as Christians, Bible believing Christians, we are to be discerning. I sometimes somewhat have to look at the log in my own eye with respect to what just happened with the rail shutdown in Canada. And thinking back, my content may have been seen as a little inflammatory. I saw bad things coming if that strike had persisted, which it did not. But it's, I'm going to be somewhat apologetic. I'm going to make a defense for myself, and the rhetoric that I put out is that I don't think the news was doing a good enough job telling people how worried they should be about the situation, because if the strike had persisted, man, oh man, things would have been bad. Now, what I see with this Eastern equine encephalitis is, I see 3-4 towns in Massachusetts instituting a voluntary curfew, suggesting that people stay indoors after 6 p.m., not to go to closing down of public parks and outdoor recreation facilities. And to me, that is programmed fear. And I have a lot of questions that I'm not qualified to answer without YouTube jumping all over me and taking my videos down and all that stuff. But my questions are, how pervasive is this? If you talk about, how many cases, if they say there are 12 cases in a state with 7 million people, my question is, or around 7 million, is that the total case count, or is that only the identified case count? Because I have come to learn that public health officials will do something akin to, I believe it's called serology testing, where they will test a representative sample of a given population for antibodies. I believe that's called serology testing. And then they'll find out at what rate an infection is happening, be it of COVID or flu or whatever. And then they will extrapolate those results out to the broader population. If you test 5,000 people and you find that there are 10 cases of something, well, then just do the math. If you're dealing with a population of 50,000, well, if there are 10 among 50,000 or 5,000, then there would be logically 100 in a population of 50,000 and 1,000 in a population of 500,000. And you can do the math. And they say there were 12 cases one year of this Eastern equine encephalitis. Is that based on an estimation, or is that based on simply lab confirmed tests? And if one person dies, one person apparently is either battling the disease or has died from the disease, who's 80 plus years of age, what's the age component? How afraid should a person be? And should we be afraid at all? Because, does it warrant shutting down the parks and outdoor recreational facilities? And of course, everyone knows, I think it's November 4th is voting day in the United States. And I'm wondering, are we going to see more of this in the coming weeks and over the next couple months as Americans are set to head to the polls to elect a new president? TJ writes about a hunch about 15-minute cities coming soon. Soon is a difficult term. How soon? This year, next year? I think we're going to be moving toward that. And when we talk about the Eastern equine encephalitis and West Nile virus, which is something I believe Anthony Fauci is said to have just been hospitalized with, I'm fairly certain in saying that they're going to start pushing the global warming climate change narrative, that they're going to, and I think it's already being said, that the prevalence or the emergence of these diseases is being abetted, helped by climate change, and that we have to bring in measures to mitigate climate change, or these health concerns are going to get worse. And an 80-plus-year-old either getting very sick with encephalitis or dying from it, 80 years of age, you're at the end of both in the United States and Canada, 80 years roughly, in and around 80 years of age is natural life expectancy. That's the age at which the average Canadian American dies, in and around there. And I've often said to people, when someone will mention a family member, a loved one passing away, and it's typical question, especially someone in my age bracket. I'm 58, and and someone will tell me their mom or their dad died, and I'll say, "Oh, how old were they?" And they'll say, 87, 93, whatever the case. And then I'll often say, well, they had a good, long life. And sometimes we'll say, I often look on it, if you make it, once you get past the age of 80, I figure if I can get there, I'll be playing on the house's money, for lack of a better expression. Nobody lives forever on this temporal plane. And when you're covered by the blood of Christ, you're tapped into eternal life. And that's where I find this fear that is programmed into us. I mean, if I have an overarching message on this triple E, encephalitis news, is that the enemy is going to be out there promoting fear. Fear, fear, fear. Fear over monkeypox, fear over COVID, fear over bird flu, fear over now potentially this, who knows, maybe this will blow up, maybe it won't, maybe it'll fade. We don't know. But if you read up on monkeypox now, there are a number of airports all around the world internationally that are bringing in, I don't know if you would call them restrictions, but they're bringing in mandates, mandatory testing. They're going to be, firing that little temperature gauge gun at people's foreheads to get their temperature. There's talk of quarantine periods because of the long incubation period the monkeypox has, up to 21 days, meaning that someone can be contagious, infectious prior to the displaying any symptoms. Got a few people commenting now. And greetings, Gord, from Daniel Copeman, mon ami de Montréal. And he's saying greetings to myself and all, and the praying hands in the air, praise God, clapping, and the cross. Daniel says, different room than at night. Interesting. Yes, I said that at the beginning. My room, during the daytime, when I sit at the dining table where I normally do my videos from, There's a sliding glass door in behind me, and the curtain is not thick. And so too much light comes in and I'm overexposed. It's just, psh, and I think it would be unwatchable. Maybe not. I mean, I figure I'm about as ordinary and average a looking guy there is. I'm not good looking. I'm not bad looking. I'm just in the middle. So maybe a big white blur would be better. Who knows? Daniel Copeman writes, after 76, you're in extra innings. Canada, I think our natural life expectancy is 82.75, somewhere around there, 82, 83 years of age. It varies. Men tend to live a little less than women. Why do men die before, why do husbands die before their wives so often? The joke is because they want to. Cute little joke that I like. But at any rate, you're welcome to check out Vincent Rhodes, Coffee with Jesus. I'm going to keep it short because goodness knows while I'm out and about today, something else may come up. If it comes up during the daytime when the sun is shining, I'll be in here with my, something of a spare junk room, surplus old army cot with the Canadian flag, American flag kind of represents me because, as you guys know, probably I've said it often enough, I spent 10 years growing up in New York, New Jersey, where I learned to talk up until about the age of 9. And then we moved to, I spent time living in Portland, Oregon, where I got to talk with more of I tend to go Midwest, but you got to make long vowel sounds. And New York, New Jersey, and Oregon. And lived everywhere. Lived all over Ontario, lived in Kingston, lived in Toronto, Durham region, even southwestern Ontario. I was born down in Welland. I spent time living in Montreal and in la ville de Québec. Donc, je parle français, comme Daniel Copeman. Il parle français, il est bilingue. Je ne sais pas s'il est un Québécois ou un anglophone. Un tête carrée. That's what they call in Quebec. They refer to us, the Anglophones, as les têtes carrées, squareheads, blockheads, nerds. So we're not cool. We're not hip. We're uptight. And Daniel Copeman watches Pastor Vincent, so he's familiar with his channel. I invite anyone else to check him out. Nice gentleman. Like I say, he's probably about my age. I think 58 and around this area code where I am. It's a good age. You start to have a decent amount of perspective. Doesn't mean you can't get things wrong, but you've seen enough to have an idea of what's going on. You can measure things off against past experience. So I'm rambling at this point. I'll make it less than a 30-minute video. Hopefully get some watches, hopefully get some likes, maybe pick up a few subscriptions, 970 or so. Hey, help me out. If you want to share it, you're most welcome. And as I always like to end it now, may the Lord bless and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you this beautiful Monday. It's gorgeous and the sun is shining in my part of the world. And may the Lord, even with all the craziness in this world, even with monkeypox, COVID, encephalitis, bird flu, with all these storm clouds around, may the Lord grant you peace, and he will grant you peace. Invite Jesus into your heart and be covered by the blood of the Lamb. And then you know that this life is not the end, that you're going to your eternal home to be with the one that made you, the creator of all things. So God bless, and we'll talk to you soon.